And this is my criticism of the NBA. Like, it all comes down to this: the league is changing fast, but we don't market teams.
Yeah, these teams are not being marketed. I do not
No
agree with the league's approach with just keep marketing a 40-year
players.
old LeBron James. I do not agree with that at all.
Well, I don't agree. Even like, for example, Zion, right? Like, sure, Zion is like a star or whatever. That's fine. Like, it makes sense. But you're better off marketing a team is much more of a safer bet,
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion.
You're
Now,
right.
like now, like if the player, for example, is injured, right? You don't have to worry about people not tuning in because you have a team to market.
Yeah,
Or
it's just in a way, man. It's tough because I feel like the business has been really good for the league with certain players, and sometimes like just like how we were talking about the East Coast teams are struggling to adapt, the league is
yeah,
still struggling to adapt on the marketing outside of the Michael Jordan kind of formula where it's like star
yeah,
driven, charismatic guy. But what happens when the league's talent pool gets a lot bigger and now the talent is really 1 through 8 on almost every single team, or 1 through
yeah,
10, and there's no guy good enough to dominate that type of talent every single night from the first guy to the eighth guy on the bench. Like Jordan
yeah.
just had
Because
to
like
worry about like the top 6. Like now on these teams, you got to worry about like the top 7 to 8.
it was easy to market. Like, let's say like a game tomorrow is like the Spurs versus this Dallas Mavericks. You're not marketing like the whole Spurs team versus the Mavericks. You're marketing Dirk versus Tim Duncan head to head in their positions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that gets you because the both are going to drop crazy numbers, which gets you views. Same with Kobe. Kobe against whichever player you could think of. Like, you knew that was going to drive views. Even LeBron and kind of Steph Curry and kind of the whole dynamic of the Warriors at Cleveland, you were able to sell based off like the idea of like three of the top players of the league playing in the NBA Finals. Where I think now it's kind of hard because like now look, like now you got like Jokic probably would have been the last one, but even like the Miami Heat, they're not a team with a clear top 10 player in that 2013 run. Um,
No, and they're gonna have to market styles, which they slowly have eliminated. Like normally
yeah,
they can market, the high powered Shaquille O'Neal, big and powerful, versus the finesse Phoenix Suns. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Quick powered, quick
big,
offense, fast
yeah,
triggered offense, Phoenix Suns. Like they can't do that no more. Everyone is the
yeah.
same thing. That's the problem
Or
with
the
the
big
whole analytics
fundamentals
shit.
which your grandfather would love to watch, Tim Duncan, like stuff like that. You can't do anymore.
You can't. I mean, you don't even have to go like the grandfather route with the Tim Duncan because that style will always exist in basketball. It
Yeah,
will
of course,
always
but like,
exist. But the thing is, that style, it should be marketed. How would it match up going up against a team that shoots nonstop versus a team that
yeah,
plays
like,
half court? Like they've mastered the half court, slowing the game
yeah,
down. They control the game. You know what I'm saying? Like they don't know how to like they can't even market that today because they eliminated all that. Everyone plays
yeah,
the same way.
yeah.
They've
But like,
eliminated all that.
there's no creativity. But I think like that's what basketball's missing because like personality sold a lot more easier because I think they were a lot less accessible. Now players are accessible. So if I'm a basketball fan, right, I don't really have to tune into a game to watch my favorite player anymore.
Oh, that's another good point. That's another good point. But at the end of the day, I think the competition and the competitiveness is what's going to draw the fans in. But it's going to be hard for the NBA to do that when everyone's fucking rich. You got the
But
guy off the
everyone is
bench
rich.
making 15 mil a
Yeah.
year. Like it's gonna that's the part I'm waiting for the league to kind of be realistic about because it's hard for everyone to be rumble and tumble fighting to be the best when everyone's rich
Yeah.
off the
That
first
is true.
contract. Like that's kind of
That is true.
crazy.
After those 4 years, you're set for life.
Not even that. Like after the first contract, you could be a role player, and then after like a couple years, you secure a contract. You're getting 15 mil to be the second player off the bench.
Yeah, I agree.
Like that's
Like,
kind of crazy.
like I said, bro, it's kind of like the NBA, the way it's set up, right? Like the way the NBA has now been set up, like we're looking at a new league overall, and I think with that new league, you have to market teams. Like if you when you look at the Orlando Magic, right? Like Paulo and Franz on surface level, they're the bigger stars. But then when you watch the game, you're watching guys like even Jet Howard, someone who didn't really get minutes last year, he was able to put up a solid performance against the Bucks. Anthony Black, Jalen Suggs. So now you have a lot more going for you when you market overall teams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be real
yeah,
tough because I feel like at the end of the day, like you said, the marketing the teams like the NFL, they got to go that route, but they also got to go that route because the talent pool is just too good. Like Michael
yeah,
Jordan today would have a more difficult time dominating all these guys because he's not dominating 1 through 6. He's dominating almost 1 through 8, 1 through 9. Like
yeah,
there's guys that could literally affect the game. That are on
yeah.
these
I
teams.
agree.
These teams are deep.
And I think just the social media, I think we kind of forget. Like I said, they're accessible now. Like if I want to watch, like say, like my favorite player growing up is Paul George. I don't really have to watch a Paul George game anymore to like get the access to Paul George.
Correct. 'Cause, yeah, he's on podcast P.
Yeah,
He's on.
Tim, Draymond,
Yep.
a lot of these like what's that one young guy on the Philadelphia McCain? I don't need to like turn on the Jaden McCain game. I just need to turn on my TikTok.
Hell yeah. You need to put on your favorite
Yeah,
nail polish and turn on TikTok, man, to see Jared
yeah.
McCain.
Watch him dance and shit. Like
Yeah.
you don't need that shit anymore, bro. I think that's what the league needs to catch up on. Is like I think Jokic works well because he's not very accessible. Same with Kawhi. Like they're not accessible guys
Hmm.
because they're not on social media.
Even
But like
Kobe to a degree before he had left.
yeah,
He
Kobe
wasn't that
before he left,
accessible.
Like Dirk, Duncan, they weren't very accessible. But the thing is, like now the players are much. Even LeBron's accessible,
Yeah,
but
a
LeBron
little bit
kind of
too much.
a little bit too much sure with the statements and stuff. But he's a lot more accessible. So that's where kind of the league kind of gets left in a dark limbo with accessibility and kind of like fans don't really need to care, about watching the game to tune in with their favorite players because they have Instagram, you know.
Correct. Yeah,
I
man.
think that's
Yeah, it's
man,
it's
that's the
it's
only
it's
point I
it's
got.
been it's definitely it's a conundrum for the league, because everyone at the same time, no matter what, is gonna get richer. I don't know if incentive based contracts is gonna be the next move. I don't know. I don't know because
Maybe in order to maybe crack down on the like rest games, you could make incentives like you play certain amount of games, you get this many bonuses. Like a lot could go into it. Maybe like a lot can go into it, but I think like a lot of these players have become brands themselves, where
hmm
a lot of them don't. I don't think a lot of them view the team as a necessary for their brand anymore.
yeah, which takes away from the loyalty of the fan base.
Yeah,
Because like once that player retires, let's say the NBA put all their chips into the LeBron branding, right? Once
yeah,
LeBron retires, he takes that fan base with him. They're not gonna
yeah.
like
He's gonna
imagine
go
most of
into
them not
Hollywood.
interested in the league after that.
He wants to go into Hollywood, right? So he's gonna take his chips and go to Hollywood.
AKA he's gonna take that fan base and go to Hollywood with them. They're gonna be like, hey, we see
Yeah.
our guy. The league is not interesting to us anymore because we only been marketed LeBron.
Now we're
It's
gonna watch LeBron movies on
yeah, it's
HBO
not
and
gonna be for a
whichever
large
platform.
portion of the NBA audience, but it's gonna be for a decent amount where it's gonna affect things. And that's why I think
Yeah,
they're gonna have to go the NFL route at some point because even us talking about the Pistons just now, I'm thinking about it like this team is gonna be something else if they once they start getting more polished players, more polished shooters. But I throughout this whole segment, I've been wondering how the fuck is the NBA gonna market this team because they have not even even attempted at it at all.
they
There's
don't get
no attempt. There's
nationalized
no
TV
build
games.
up.
They don't get nationalized TV games.
Yeah, there's nothing. Like nobody even like out the casuals do not even know who's their star player. Like
Yeah,
this is a
no, they
weird
don't.
thing. And it just feel like SGA for him to pop up in that Vegas game in the finals. It's like they expect that to translate when there's no real build up. Like how many
Yeah,
times they don't even have SGA on Christmas.
No, they don't.
This is where the league don't make sense. How you expect
Well,
him
they
to
don't even have
translate for the finals in the Vegas league? Doesn't make any sense.
same with Orlando. Like you don't have Orlando. You don't, I think last year you only had two nationalized TV games, and one of them was only because of Shaquille O'Neal's jersey retirement.
Wow,
No, I think they had
that's
one,
pitiful.
only one, and that was for Shaquille O'Neal's jersey retirement.
That's sad. That's sad
Then
right there.
imagine you have a first round pick of the previous draft year. You would think like, hey, you know what? Let's give him some televised TV games because, like he's only 20 and he'll be the face of the league eventually. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you would think some heads, like some common sense prevail in TNT and kind of like TNT and ESPN were like, it's like, you know what? Let's promote our future heads of the game. Because I'm watching an interview I was watching on my timeline. I think it was Malika Andrews who do the interviews. I'm not sure, but one of the ESPN girls they did the interview and it was Steph Curry talking about retirement, and I'm like, holy fuck, man! Like this is what we're relying on to carry the NBA for like years to come. Like this guy's already entertaining retirement.
Exactly. It's kind of crazy. It's
Yeah,
kind of crazy.
like good for him, man. Like that's why I say out of all major leagues, like the NBA has regressed the most. Like even MLB has seen a spark and like kind of relevancy because people care about the MLB because of the Dodgers becoming relevant and the Yankees.
Mm-hmm. And if you notice, baseball don't really. Their players, if they were in the mall shopping, they're not gonna really cause a frenzy like an NBA player. They're not gonna be easily as spotted. But the
Yeah,
NBA has been so focused on individual brands that they've kind of ignored their brand, and they're gonna have to
yeah,
work with their television partners like ESPN. The way ESPN is promoting the NBA is not it. Talking about the Los Angeles Lakers and JJ Redick during the NBA Finals with the
it's
Mavs
whack.
and the Celtics.
Boston.
That's not the way to go. They got to talk
And
to
when
them
you have
about that.
Stephen A. Smith make statements like, "Oh, I hope the team that wins is the team I get to go to vacation with," it's not good because I doubt he does that with the NFL. If the
Yep.
NFL, like, let's say the Super Bowl is hosted in fucking, I don't know, Kansas or some city that he doesn't like, I doubt he's gonna talk shit about the city.
Yep. Facts.
Like, I sincerely doubt it. He's gonna be like, "Oh, fuck yeah," like it's all about the NFL. It's not about like major markets. And the same with baseball. Used to be about major markets, but you see that conversation die down a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot more regional, and you know that's something I was talking about earlier in one of my shows that I did, one of my
Yeah,
segments. How the online world, in a way, it's more niche than it is for a mass entity like ESPN to try to appeal to everybody. I think that's
yeah,
another thing that hurts them. The NBA has gotten to the whole let's appeal to the world, the global pool. You see Adam Silver every time in his press conference he's talking about
yeah,
the global world, our global audience. When you try to appeal to so many, you become you actually don't stand on anything. You don't represent anybody or anything. You're just
yeah.
there.
Because you're not making anybody happy.
Yeah, you're just stretching yourself too thin. And I feel like the league, maybe this expansion has come, with the influx of money a little bit too fast. And then they're talking about expanding into two other NBA teams. Maybe they might be doing too many things at once. You know what I'm
Yeah, but
saying?
my thing
Like,
is like we can expand NBA teams, but how can we guarantee these NBA teams will be relevant?
exactly. They can't even guarantee the Pelicans to be relevant. Like, I
The
don't understand how
Pelicans
they
are
think about
relevant.
expansion.
Yeah, I mean, look at a lot of teams. Like, who really talks about some of these teams that are currently playing? Like, I'm not even talking about record wise. Like Atlanta Hawks, who care? Like nobody really talked about them besides like Trey Young's antics, and it was entertaining, whatever. Do we really talk about the Orlando Magic like that? Is Cleveland even talked about, despite them being a top three seed? Like at first, it was like, oh, Cleveland's cool, but like, has anyone really like Donovan Mitchell this, Donovan Mitchell that? We don't see any narratives run wild. The Lakers and their fiasco always be relevant. There's like three, four teams that kind of catch your eye. The Brooklyn Nets and whatever they do because they're New York, they're gonna catch the eye. So for me, it's like, bro, we need to make all like the all around NBA relevant, and I've been saying that since forever. I'm
Yeah.
like, bro, the fact I could turn on the ESPN tomorrow and like they'll talk about the fucking trash ass Atlanta Falcons or the Cowboys for like the millionth time, but like they don't really bother to talk about other teams. where teams like the Pistons, teams like the Pelicans, teams like like Memphis will talk about because of job, but I just can't think of teams right now. But there's some teams that they're not bothering to really cover, and it's a problem with how it's a problem with how the product will go on in the future. Because like I said, bro, like the fact this league is relying on three players who are close to retiring because they're all playing the nostalgia factor, like sit in interviews with Steph, LeBron, and Curry. I'm like, all right, yeah, like like father
But
time
that
wins.
that right there might be a ESPN issue. It might be an
Well,
ESPN
ESPN
issue.
controls narrative, bro. That's the thing. Like, a lot of people like ESPN dominates social media too when we look at it. Because let's be honest, like when we scroll on NBA Twitter, we're watching Stephen A. say the most outrageous shit every time. Because people react the most to those statements.
Correct. But hey,
So
man,
like, don't
we'll
yeah,
we'll, we'll, we'll,
like
we'll we'll see how these things play out. It's a it's definitely it's definitely
yeah,
gonna be an ongoing discussion throughout the
yeah.
year. But
And also, like, bro, you look at like I think Kobe's retirement kind of signifies it. Like when Kobe was retiring, we were going into that kind of Steph Curry 3-point shot era, where it was a much easier transition. My thing is with LeBron is when he retires, what transition are we really going to see?
ooh, that's a good point right there. We don't
Do
really
you remember
have
Steph?
that.
Because you had the 73-9 season, the Warriors were like the most talked about team next to Kobe Bryant's retirement. Like those were the most two talked about teams, right? Rightfully so, because they were both making history, like Kobe's last game and obviously the Warriors. But like you just knew, like like for like 4 or 5 years to come, it's gonna be about the Warriors, and it did become that. But you also saw like kind of like Harden and kind of like after Duncan retired, you had the rise of Kawhi and Dirk retired. The transition became Luka, but you don't see that with the modern NBA with new talent coming in. Like Wembanyama's cool. He's gonna be marketable, but like, how far are they willing to market him?
They're
Like how like
but
because
here's another thing. They're not in that transition, right? You were talking about with Curry, right? After Kobe had left, that transition won't really happen again because within that transition, a dynamic that played out is the consistency of Curry and LeBron being in the finals. That today in this parity era is going to be super rare. It's going to be
yeah,
super rare. It's
but
not
you
really
all
going to happen like that.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
saying like
Mm-hmm.
you kind of have that transition right where like Kobe retired right, but you also had like kind of like Steph and LeBron, but you also had like kind of guys who were good like supporting cast to the big picture like Kawhi, Harden, even DeMar had some cool seasons. That you just had that kind of like you kind of had some players you can rely on, but I don't know now. Like it's hard for me to say like can you really rely on players to kind of take over the mantle? Because I'm looking at even like this Christmas game. Where's Giannis?
Yeah, Giannis is MIA. It's not really gonna happen like that. The
You're
league,
two. You're,
the
you're
league,
two-time
it's an
MVP.
issue with their television partners. There's a
Yeah,
disconnect. Their television partners are about. They're so money driven. They're only about today. They're not necessarily looking about tomorrow. Because I remember who exposed it. Was it It's one of the major analysts at
is it
ESPN.
Windhorst?
Tim Legler, I think it was.
Oh,
He exposed
okay.
that he wanted to talk about the Pacers, but they said that doesn't get them any ratings. They were so rating and clickbait interested that they didn't care about talking about teams that were starting up, new play styles when Tyrese Halliburton was going crazy early last year. He said
Yeah,
ESPN did not want to talk about that. They wanted to focus on the Lakers.
yeah, of
So
course. Because then you get stuck. Like when you look at like last year, like Andrew Nimrod goes ham, but you like I said, Andrew Nimrod goes ham. Good for him, but it doesn't do anything for the average viewer because we were never told to give a fuck about Andrew Nimrod.
shit. But yo, man, definitely appreciate you, man. This has been dope. We definitely gonna do this again. And yeah, enjoy your holidays, man.
Enjoy yours too, man.
All
All
right,
right,
man.
bro.
Appreciate
Subscribe
you.
to Orange Cookies
Yeah,
on
you guys
YouTube.
definitely hit up the link in the description below. Check out Saeed's Substack. Dope articles in there, man. We're gonna have some more of this dope conversation. Do some more of this dope game film, man. We got a lot of things to cover during the season, and
For sure, man. For sure.
and
The
and
season's
and most of
still.
the storylines are playing out on the court. They're not
Yeah.
necessarily playing out with the storylines, like with the regular non-court activities, like the Zion William thotties. That's
Yeah.
not playing out as much anymore.
Zion William bodies. But
Yeah,
yeah, like I said, bro, the season's still young. The season just started like 2 months ago, so
definitely.
there's a lot moments that we can catch up on.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Saeed, definitely stay up, man. Enjoy your
Hello.
holidays, man. We'll link up. All right, brother. Peace.